and welcoming everybody as we get into this early afternoon live. And we'll go over a lot of stuff as it's very red in the market. I just want to make sure that my headset is coming in clearly because I'm trying something different today. So I want to see how that sounds. But I won't know until some people start talking, some people start listening, or hear what I'm saying and can give me a little bit of feedback. Mike B, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. I greatly appreciate that. Dan Marginal, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your second month with the Dusty's Outhouse Crypto News. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in so quickly here this afternoon. Daytona, welcome in and good afternoon. I hope you're having a great day so far. But as it is, XRP right now is down 4.75%. Arelli, welcome in. Thank you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Matthew, good afternoon. We'll look at where it can head. S. Wimbish, welcome in, and thanks for being in Townsend for your second or 3 months plus with the XRP Meteor along with Big Dog. And out of curiosity, how does it sound? Actually, I'll just turn it on myself and listen. Actually, it came in clear, I think. But I put on my headset that I'm using, that I use when I actually talk on the phone. I figured I'd give it a shot because I actually like this one. And I was curious about the sound quality. Matthew, welcome in. Ben Graham, good afternoon. CJ2 Pilot, good afternoon. Thanks for being in Towns for over 1 year at the I Told You So badge. Mark Korf, welcome in. Papa Wheelie and Crypto Cooter, good afternoon. Thanks for being in Tom's Arm for over 6 months with the XRP Predictor. Also a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram, Crypto Cooter, along with the fine group. Thank you as well for being in Tom's Arm for 6+ months with the XRP Predictor. Says, hey everyone, hit that like on the way and consider subscribing and joining Tom's Army for the best technical analysis on YouTube. If you're not in the Telegram, you're missing out. I 100% agree with that. If you're not in the Telegram, you are truly missing out. I agree with that 100%. Sounds great. Somebody says sounds good. All right, good. And Define, thanks for being a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram. Means a lot to me. Some are saying, oh my god. My videos didn't do as well yesterday, I'll be honest, because I had the bearish overtone, but I was just telling everybody what I was seeing. Yesterday, I said in the first live, XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum, alts, dangerous patterns emerge, but golden opportunity for the accumulation was at the back end, accumulation awaits. And then we talked about in the live last night, let's see. Oh no, that was the one last night, and then the one yesterday morning we talked about. And you see, they didn't get as many views as normal because nobody seems to like when I talk bearish. But I said XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum is a dangerous formation set up to drop crypto prior to alt season because it seemed like we were getting ready to drop. It was a dangerous setup, and now here we are sitting at $2.82, and this would be a good time to start paying attention to the pattern. I know a lot of people are going to disappear today. Like this is going to be a day where most people pack up their bags and go, well, I'm not watching crypto today. And you sit there and go, well, why aren't you watching it today? I don't want to see red. I don't want to see my portfolio going down. Oh, no. This is when you should be watching crypto. This is legitimately, if you didn't want to watch crypto for the last month, this is where you have to watch it. Even if you didn't want to, whether you were invested or not, if you're interested in the space, you have to watch it right now. This is the make it or break it point right now, coming up. For XRP at $2.80, what we've been talking about for the last several days, the make it or break it showdown zone that felt imminently like it was about to happen. If it breaks down out of here, it's not just $2.47 that we're worried about, remember. Oh no. It's that drop down to $1.92. Because technically, we asked ourselves a couple days ago, well, if we're going to have a drop down like that, why does it make sense? And I'll tell you in a second. Good early afternoon, 1:54 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Friday, August 29th, 2025. The last trading day of August. Unbelievable. I'm XRP Future Millionaire. And I reside in the great state of Michigan. The reason why it adds up and why it could have a drop like that is because we've never back tested the wick portions of the push out of this handle on the cup. So that tells us we could back test $1.92. Yes, $2.48 right around there is that FVG at that 250s, pretty close to that 250 level. So that is definitely something of note, and that is how we can get down into that range. If you remember, I had this arrow that would look something like this if you were watching yesterday, and then just because I didn't want people to have to keep staring to it, but that's how we basically had this set up yesterday with the arrow, but it should be yellow. But you get the picture. So it's like, how does it make sense that drop right there? If it comes down, it points down to it back testing there. So then we're like, whoa, we gotta put some stock into this, because obviously there's more to this than just, oh well, you know, it's messy and we don't want this to happen. It was a little bit more than just that. You know, there was a little bit more to it than that, and now it's starting to play out. And I don't mind going contrarian from when, you know, a lot of people are getting their hopes up for alt season, but it's not. I keep thinking Q1 is probably when we go parabolic, or the most likely scenario, but knowing that in November, mid-November, should be the time when we start to actually take the house back. So like when you start to see the pumpkins out in October, you start to be like, okay, well now we're starting to get towards that bottoming phase, and now we can start to round back up. And then when you get into November and then the mid of November, normally we get a nice rally. And then by the day after my birthday, usually, at least a couple times now, since I started doing this on March 24th of 2021, the day after my birthday. So December 17th ends up being a bullish peak. And then the 18th ends up being a catastrophic dump. And then we end up rounding back out by the end of January to double top or make the high ultimately. And then we go down a 7, 8, 9 month journey. Most cases 11 months, and then we start to finally have that culmination. Right now, this don't look good. In no stretch of the imagination does this look good. The only thing that looks good here in the micro is the fact we're still above $2.80. Like, I know it sounds mean, but it's the truth. You know, this don't look that good in the micro, and we've been talking about this, so it's not bothering me, you know. We felt like that inverse head and shoulders was a lure in on this micro, because it was supposed to break out before if that pattern was going to break out, but it hasn't broke down yet, so you're kind of stuck in no man's land. But I am not surprised that we're having these drops today at all. I said yesterday that it's going to be a shame that nobody watches these videos in regard to who normally would when it's a more bullish titling, because there's a lot of information there. I know we did rather well in the lives, but as far as it gaining traction, nobody wants to be like, oh, I'm going to watch an hour worth of bearish talk. And that's not what it is. It's not just bearish talk. We're actually looking at the levels. That makes sense. Let's see. JJ says, can't log into my Uphold account. Is anybody having trouble? That's where it starts. Remember, Julie? I hope you're not a victim of causation here again by Uphold. But Julie still has 1,000 XRP on Uphold sitting there that they won't give back, that we've never been able to log back into. So we got a whole bunch of other stuff off of there, but for some reason they wouldn't let us get the last part of it. And they started to ask her or tell her that we're sorry we had to make tough decisions, but we can no longer support you having an account here at Uphold. She paid her tax returns. Both years she was on Uphold. She did everything she was supposed to. Yeah, she filed them too through Uphold's own policy where they keep track. And then she filed what she was supposed to. And guess what? Yeah, she was making too much money because she was in the rally in the bull run in 21. So it's like once you start making money on Uphold, they change their tune. But anyhow, that was her experience. And I've been very vocal why I don't use it. Because some are like, you should just suck it up and buy IOTA there. No, thank you. I'd rather not have IOTA than have to use Uphold. So I hope that's not the case. And then it says on hers you have to log in, but then you're not allowed to log in. It gives you that when you try to log in. So it's a nice catch-22 they built in, and it's been like since the January of 23. So You know, I don't know. I don't know. I hope that keep us updated, JJ. Robert, good afternoon. Matthew, welcome and thanks for everything you do for this community. Much appreciated. You're welcome. I don't know, JJ. Are you the one who lives in Clawson? I hope not. I don't remember you saying you had Uphold though. I think that was a different person. Let's see. Who did I not see? Frankie Fresh, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom Zone for over 6+ months with the XRP predictor. Says good morning, Army. Good to see you all. Having a rough morning on my way to the hospital. My one hand's been numb for the past 2 days. Wishing we well. I'll be watching for a few more minutes. Oh, Jesus, Frankie. We'll keep you in our prayers, man. That's, I'm glad you're going to get it taken care of. I'm glad you're going to get it taken care of. I don't want to ask any questions. But good luck, my friend. That's more important than this show. I appreciate you listening, but keep us updated. Yeah, take care of yourself and keep us updated, my friend. No need to apologize. You get to where you need to go. You need to get to where you go. It sounds like you're going to where you need to be, so. Crazy Paul, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom Zone for over 6 months with the XRP Predictor. Thank you so much for that support for such a long time. Syrian, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom Zone for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. And also a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram. So awesome to see all of you in here today. Even with the red, XRP's on the verge here of going below a very catastrophic level. And the problem is here is the CME we haven't even closed the trading day. So like that gap, there's nothing that's even formed to the downside because it's happened already. So we could get a catastrophic breakdown over the weekend. We got to see what happens here. This $2.80, and man, do I wish I had a cold water. I'll be right back. I can talk. I think I can talk while I walk now. But, you know, you guys will have to give me feedback so you can actually hear me. Because I actually you should be able to hear this water. But I suppose you'll have to be the ones that tell me when I sit back down if you even communicate. Because I don't know. But yeah, we're in a very interesting spot here. I mean, Bitcoin coming down outside of a rising wedge. We prophesized possibly that Ethereum was about to come outside of a rising wedge. And I remember we were talking about it, I'm like, man, yesterday, we're like, this looks eerily familiar here. The last 2 days we've been talking about it. Like, this is eerily familiar. I feel like we've been here before with Bitcoin. The old Bitcoin. The biggest Ponzi scheme the world's ever seen. Mark my words. I've been saying it forever. I'm going to continue to say it. I think the digital assets will probably one day be one of the biggest Ponzi schemes we've ever come across. Probably a lot of these tokens are going to be to the level of the .com bubble, I fear. And when all that happened, that's what I feel like this is. A dime a fucking dozen. And most of them do the exact same shit. And if you're a fan of one, it's just like politics. If you're a fan of one, you say it can do something the other one can't do, but in hindsight, they both do the same fucking thing. Excuse me, the same darn thing. So, hey, I like XRP over, band. Well, I'm going to sit here and say XRP can do X, Y, and Z. And then if you're a fan of band, you're going to say, well, it can do X, Y, and Z. And then when you look deeper, you're like, well, they can kind of just do the same shit. Then you're like, well, is XRP an oracle? Well, is band? Well, and you go into the whole thing, and it's like, well, if we're splitting apples and oranges, are any of them really better than the other ones? When you start looking deeper into the picture, I mean, what are we really talking about? It's more like an alliance with the government. Who's favored by the government and who's not? At this point, Ripple's favored by the government, and a lot of people laugh when I say that. It's true. I know that there was a lawsuit to kind of trick people, but I have a strong belief that the same nefarious characters that created and are in charge of Bitcoin are the same nefarious characters that created and are in charge of XRP as well. So, I think we're in a fun time. And like Ethereum, it's even funner because inverse head and shoulders plainly sitting here. It's just boldly sitting here. Boldly. So we'll see if this breaks down or if it continues to, correct a little bit more. Nobody knows. That's the beauty of it. Nobody actually knows. Like, I don't know. Nobody knows. We don't know. All we can do is pontificate on what could be to come. Campbell Vision, good afternoon from the Netherlands. I love seeing that. Christopher put in a short at 301. UK Phil, welcome in and thanks for being a Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Steve, welcome in, says I bought more. I love it. Please go lower so we can buy more. Yeah, I mean, be careful buying it before it actually has a real fallout. I don't want you to be overpaying. But you have your own plan. It sounds like you're buying the levels as they drop off, so there's nothing wrong with, if you have a plan, there is nothing wrong with sticking to your plan. Cannabis Podcast, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for 6+ months with the XP Predictor. Q1 blow off the top and Clarity Act and slow grind up. It's possible. I think we should get some kind of move with rate cuts if we get it in September, but here's what could, if they do a 25 basis point rate cut, that's not going to be good. I feel like the crypto market, risk assets want to hear 75 or more. So if they come at us with some weak sauce and they're like, oh, 25 basis points, that could still be a problem. That might as well be like holding rates, the same in the eyes of the risk assets, I think. But right now, we're going to be way oversold in the smaller time frames. So there is going to be an opportunity here to have some kind of reversal. Because we're at the pattern support now. So now we're back to that support structure. And it's going to be, do we fall out of this? Do we actually fall out of this? Or is this just a nice, perfect back test? And nothing to see, nothing to worry about, nothing to feel around here with. And it's just going to go back up? Or is this where it starts that deadly descent? And then we have to go see if we do break that 270 area, 272 area. I like to say 270, even though 272 is a support down there, because you give it a little grace. And if it breaks that 270, then you're down to 262, that 248. I say 250 FVG, but it's like 248. And then it goes down far. There's so many more below that. Like, I can give you a gap below, like somewhere near 1.8 cents. So it's not like, oh, is that the lowest gap? No, it's not. But these are the gaps. Even the $1.50 one we never filled. We can say we went to like $1.62, but technically, I like it better if it would have flowed into the $1.50 area. But why stop there, right? What about the one at 91? Why stop there? So I'm just simply saying from the setup we have, it can lead us down a dark road here, is all we've been saying the last few days. And it felt like there was reasoning behind the fact that this could come down here and backtest a old cup and handle that it hasn't technically backtested where the wick met. And if you were extending this out, you wouldn't have went right here because you would have actually brought it farther out if that's how you were planning to play this. You had 1, 2, 3 for the top end of it. But because it created a layer of resistance there. And now that ultimate area, it's ironic that it lines up with that if it were to fall through. In no way am I saying, hey, this is 100%. But what I am saying is we pay attention to this because then we know whether it breaks that support structure of this pattern consolidation or if it breaks bullish over that 312 in real time, because it'll end up depreciating as time goes on because it's a downtrending resistance. And that support's going to appreciate a little bit because it's an uptrending support, which technically makes this a pennant flag. So it's either we make the first lower low in a series of higher lows, or we make the first higher low or lower high in a series of higher highs. And what happened here, could we argue that maybe we finally made a lower high in this section? Finally, we may have made a lower high, and that would be validated if we make a lower low. So that's what I mean. We are on the fringes here of having a problem. Now, this whole discussion could be invalidated if this came up here again and then just bounced up here, right? And ended up breaking. But we need to stop, because we have lower highs, but you need to stay in the element. You can't make a lower low while you're making these lower highs. You want to make a higher low before you make a lower low, is the point. So right now, nothing's changed. This is still fine. Because in theory, it's still just a lower high. That's all we're trying to say here. But if we go through and make a lower low here, well, then we invalidate the higher high. I mean, the lower high, higher low scenario. And that's going to invalidate a pennant. So that's where we're at right now. It tightened up a lot here. The fact it dived down before it came back up to this resistance area at 312 is telling. That's all I'm saying. That is a telling signature right there. The fact that this monthly candle ends and XRP has an escrow dump on Monday, on Labor Day. So we're not going to have trading in the markets besides crypto. So it's going to be a very thinly traded Labor Day trading day. I mean, the way this daily ended is brutal right now. If it ends like this, brutal to the highest order. The weekly, brutal. I mean, that's going to start so bad to start next week. This is going to be brutal. The monthly, oh, forget about it. Forget about it. That just pile drived us. If it ended right there, that's a pile drive maneuver. If you got, because you're going to start midway, and then if it just, shoot, if it sneezes the wrong direction, if the wind even blows, if we even think the wrong thoughts, you could get a huge reversal candle. And I know Nick knows what I'm talking about. Because if this drops below 270, he's like, well, might have to wash my hands of this entire thing because this could be bad. Because it could. It could. I mean, it's not. I'm not trying to like over harp it, but it's like if I talk about it before it happens, and then it starts happening, it gives me more credibility. Like yesterday when it's, or 2 days ago when it's going up, and I'm talking about this scenario, you know, I get looked at with the cross eye. Like, are you out of your freaking minds? Like, we just went back over 3. Can you give us a moment? And then the next day you're like, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? How did we get stalled? And then you're looking at the next day, and it's like 4, 5, 6, 8%, 10, 15. Remember CRO yesterday, I said I expect a big drop, down to 21 or 22. Now it's down 17%. I probably should have shorted it. But then I lose my own integrity because then I forget what I'm doing with the long game. But yeah. I mean, that was a pretty obvious one. They all, no matter how much strength they look like they have, like it was really obvious. They need to come back towards that 23, 22.9. That's where I thought. Which means that it's still got a lot of room to come down. But then people will be like, well, what the hell? It's like, well, if you bought it at 8 cents and it's at 22, 20, you don't really care. You're waiting for the fundamental approach. And you're just letting it build. Try to let it build into what it's supposed to. But yeah, could it be a pump and dump? Well, it could be. Could it be just like what Band did? It's possible. Band didn't move as much. Well, I mean, not as much. Well, close. You know, like I said, Band, 72 cents. And now here we are at 80. I drew it out up here when it failed. Then we know we have to probably come back down and back test this support. It's the pattern breakout, that's all. And it hasn't completely broke down yet, but one more drop here, it's going to find itself back testing the breakout itself. And then one more drop, it's going to find itself back within the pattern rotation. Which, I mean, where we're at right now with Bitcoin, that rising wedge breakdown is everything. That's why I was so concerned. Is he? I figured he might go down that trajectory. Some good news, though. The mining stocks, silver is almost about $40 an ounce right now. It's at $39.68 an ounce. I don't remember the last time we seen silver this high. We're going to have to go back a little while. The last time silver was at $39 at this rate was... the last time silver was this price, September of 2011. It's been 14 years. XRP. Silver is at a 14-year high as we sit here together. As sure as I'm talking to all of you, silver's at a 14-year high right now. Tanya, welcome in, love, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years with the XRP 589 Moon Badge. Road Less Traveled, thanks for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens. I appreciate it. I was just reading what you said. You think that it can bounce, but I was reading what Steve said. Steve, Uphold has never been a problem, but yes, cold storage is better. How dare you? It has been a problem. Don't overspeak what I'm saying. It hasn't been a problem for you. Emphasize it. Never been a problem for you. Like I said, they've stolen 1,000 of Julie's XRP, so it's absolutely been a fucking problem. So on your end, it's never been a problem, but on my experience, it's been a huge fucking problem. And with a lot of other people, it's been a huge problem. So don't put it in capital letters. It's never been a problem. And no, cold storage is not necessarily better at all. It's the same hook from a different string, friend. They're all the same hook from a different string. You're being hooked by the same string, just on a different hook. It's the whole point. It's the same hook on a different string, however you want to label it. So yes, there has been a problem with Uphold. So don't circumvent what I'm saying by acting like you can put it in capital letters and saying it's never been a problem. It has been a problem. That's why I emphasized it. And I hope you guys don't have problems. I'm just sharing personal experience, you know? If that's not worth the shit in a box, well, I won't share the story of the box next time. Let's see. Great Paul, welcome in. Crypto Plumber 589, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 3 months with the XRP Meteor. Let's see. Monday-ish Friday. Yes, it's definitely been a Monday-ish Friday. It sure has felt that way. Matthew, welcome in. Jason Whipple, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 3 months with the XP Meteor. Says I think they will do a 50 basis point September, 50 basis point December, and 50 basis point. Maybe. Steve Rose says Bitcoin will not go below 100K for multiple reasons. Well, we'll talk the next time it's under 100K. And then I'll hopefully you'll be in here and you'll divulge to me why it was not supposed to go under 100K. And I'm not saying it's going to go down in this stretch under 100K. I'm just saying it will eventually come down under 100K. And if this rising wedge wins out, it doesn't matter what all the speculative reasons you can throw at me are. It's going to come down below 100K, and it's not going to give a rat's ass about the speculative reasons. Just like XRP doesn't seem to care about the multiplier that's supposed to bring it to infinity after that debit card came out and all this other nonsense. It's all fancy words of the same trick of a different side of a coin. The only thing that really matters is the chart. The chart doesn't care about all this other nonsense. It knows what it knows. And what it knows is there's not enough volume coming in. That's all it knows. We can keep saying other reasons why it's going to go up and why it shouldn't go and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not saying it can do anything. I'm just saying what the chart says. I'm showing you what the chart is showing. 81K is what it says if this rising wedge actually played down. That's why I put it in there like that in case it ends up in some kind of weird channel or something. But we don't know if it's going to come down there. That's if this played down and the bearish proposition was felt. This is what it would do. If it gave you the worst case scenario out of that pattern breaking down, which it's rejected there at first. So, I mean, it's starting to go down that trajectory. But if it played down completely, that would play down to around 81K, 81.5. Could be slightly off because I haven't remeasured it since it actually broke down. I had that target before it ever broke down, as it was still building up when we didn't know if it was a rising wedge. So if it plays down, it's going to play down quite a bit. That puts you a pretty fair amount under 100K. 91K even, there's a gap there that, in theory, even if it wants to not come down to 81, it would make perfect sense to come down to 91 and fill that gap. Then maybe you could say it put in some kind of rising triangle. So then it would be like, hey, did this to a head, to a shoulder, back out. And then you could be like, hey, well, maybe it was actually a rising triangle. Because then you're like, you know, and then it's more of a triangle instead. And then instead of being a wedge, it was actually coming down to create not only an inverse head and shoulders, but it also expanded out into like a rising triangle. So, you know, I'm not sure exactly what its intentions are, but my understanding here is whatever its intentions are, you know, it had to come down from 117, and then when it lost 115, it was not good. Or 116 initially, then 114, it ends up being a disastrous rejection on the rebound. But there is a scenario where it could stay over here at like 103. But I mean, that's just building some kind of weird head and shoulders, even if it did something like that. So I'm not sure, unless you're talking about the shoulder being out here, head, and then a shoulder building up here, and then just powering out. I mean, that could happen. It's less likely, but it could happen. So, I mean, We'll see where it ends up being. I'm fascinated by the pattern though, because it could legitimately change a rising wedge into like a rising triangle just by coming down to certain, like if it held at 91, I'd be the first to speculate like, hey, it's trying to create an inverse right shoulder here, and maybe it is expanding this out into an ascending triangle instead of the wedge that looks like it broke down. It actually had, ulterior motives here. And here we are sitting at mid-September, and we got a rate cut coming up, and it just happens to be in a moment of opportunity because I could see that happening. So I'll keep that line there just in case that I drew out. I'm not saying that can't happen. But there's a support to your point saying it can't come under 100. There is a support down there at like 102 that honestly could hold it. So it's not out of the question. Just like this could come down to 90. Ooh, that is way down here. Jesus Lord. Wow. That's insane. That really is way down there. So, I mean, well, we're just going to have to see how this plays out. We're just going to have to see how this plays out. Where it ends up gathering itself would be a big moment here. Big moment. Yeah, Shane, here's my thoughts. Okay? What the game you're playing is the most dangerous game of all times. It's funny because I just talked to Defined about this very scenario yesterday that I've seen too much playing out. In the same rotation, to take a token that you loved, like XLM, and then in the same rotation, to now sell out of it, even if it's a portion, to go now buy something else when it's in the same rotation. That's something that I don't generally like to do. If you want to sell XLM because you all of a sudden have a change of heart and you're like, I'd much rather hold IOTA, I think there's more potential. Okay, that's one thing. But to make a lateral move in the same exact market structure seems to me that's a losing proposition. Because what ends up happening is, and this is just from my personal experience and just the experience of watching and having an audience over 45,000 people and doing this every day for 4.5 years nonstop, you pick up on some things. There's one of two ways that can play out. One, you hate XLM now. You say, I didn't realize that there was so much more potential for IOTA. I didn't realize it was a mainframe token. I'm just throwing scenarios out there. I didn't know that this was as deeply embedded into the Internet of Things. I didn't know that the circulating supply was only this much compared to Stellar having X amount and, yada, yada, yada. And I just think that this is a much better token, price for bang for the buck. And you're like, I don't want to sit here. I'd much rather sit knowing that I hold IOTA and I'm building into a future with IOTA than have both of these tokens when I can't stand XLM anymore. Well, that's one scenario. Then you can sell out. And yeah, it sucks you're selling out on a dive. But then you can sit there and say, okay, well, where's IOTA going? But I'm not going to hold XLM any longer. That's fine. I do that with tokens. I've done it a lot in the past. And I merge down. That is my current one that I've been thinking about, but I haven't been able to convince myself that I'd rather just shorten my stack. Because in crypto nowadays, the less is better. If you can confine it to 3 or less tokens, you're winning. Like, hey, I got XDC for the R3/4. I got IOTA for the mainframe token, and then you got banned as an oracle. But then I would say you have to have 5 because XYO actually is an oracle itself, and it's so cheap that when it gets... So my point is if that's one way. The other thing that gets you in trouble is I have the wandering eye. I still love XLM, but I still, for whatever reason today, it's sinking into me that IOTA is going to have a bigger run, and I think at the price point it's a better deal. And then the moment that you switch into IOTA, and IOTA drops 7% and XLM only drops 3%, or the moment that IOTA's up 1% and you see XLM up 17%, you're like, son of a fucking bitch. I don't know what I was doing. I let all these assholes convince me. I didn't even like IOTA before this. And then you sell out of IOTA to buy back in XLM. It goes up another 12%, and you're so freaking happy. And you're like, screw you, IOTA. I knew that was going to happen. And then you praise yourself, and then all of a sudden, the retest happens and it drops 7% on XL. I'm like, oh, fine, I'm still up. And then IOTA goes up at 71%. You're like, oh my fucking God. I hate this pile of shit. I'm never. And you start to get into that dangerous cycle of flow because you're switching out in the same rotation. Who's to say one's better than the other? Just because on speculation one looks like it could do better, it might not. You know, one can surprise you. So in my humble opinion, I don't think it's a smart decision trading X for Y when you like both variables. Especially if it's in the same rotation. I say this even when something's gone up 30% and then someone wants to flip into another because it hasn't run yet. How many times have you said, I'm going to flip from this perfect asset that I just made 30% on to flip into another one in a similar setup just for the other one to look identical and then roll over? And while this one's rolling over was the back test for the other one. And then while the other one kept rolling over before it finally bottomed out and started going up, the other one now has gone up another 35% after the back test. I know you've all been in that scenario, so the wandering eye will get you fucked. In this environment, I keep saying trading is going to kill you. You cannot be a trader right now. You have to look for opportunity, and you should have a lot of money sitting on the sidelines for these drops. That's all I'm going to say. You know, I have certain things that I won't sell, but I have certain things that are liquefied, as you all know. So some are in, some are out. Some, I mean, for tax purposes, I like when they start to drag some things down. But I mean, this ain't fucking pretty. I never claimed it would be. In fact, I was trying to sound the alarm the last couple of days, like, hey, you know, I know no one's gonna watch these to the tune that they should be. I mean, I rubbed people the wrong way yesterday about those two lives. I lost like 65 subscribers yesterday because I went too bearish. I mean, now those people are probably like, I don't know why I unsubscribed from this guy. He was talking the truth at $3.08 and $3.02 yesterday, and now look at it, we're at $2.80. I don't know why I unsubscribed, and then they'll come back. They'll come back. It'll be too late, but they'll come back. And then they'll come in and it'll be the same sob story that you feel bad about every time. I wish I would have just listened. You know, sometimes listening is being humbled enough to say, hey, I don't know everything. This guy's been there before. When I started in 21, I said, you don't have a reason to believe me. In 25, I don't make that same claim because I have past history. Past history doesn't prove future performance, but what it does is dictates the fact that there's a history there nonetheless, and you can learn from it. Going into the miners, because I really, really like the mining stocks, especially where we're at in this cycle. Gold's at 3,445. We'll get to that in a sec, but silver's at a 14-year high right now. We haven't seen a price this high since 2011. 2011, it's incredible. We're finally trying to break out of a cup and handle that's been building, Julia, like this. It's been building since 1980. We've been in this cup, started in 1980, and the handle started in 2011. That's right. The last time we seen silver prices this high, we, right after this, started to work on this 14-year handle that we are now officially starting to break out of. $39.55 was my majestic level. That once you get above that and hold, oh, buddy, you have when this cup and handle finishes breaking out, your short-term move out of the handle will be $55.64. Your long-term move, and this isn't even the full move, but out of the initial push out of that cup that's been building for 40-something years, 45 years, is $93. Can you imagine where these mining stocks are going to be if silver's at $93? If silver's at $93, I'm going to come on the air and start crying. Like, if you see these miners, like SBM, we talked about silver core metals the last few days, right? How I needed to put it somewhere because I like to put in so much a month when I get paid. And I ended up putting like a little more than I had planned, to be honest with you. I think like 8,000 something total into this company, but it just was ever building. But what was it? We talked about it on Thursday. What's the date today? The 29th. So we talked about it every day here. We started talking about it a lot right here this week, right on Monday. That was the big day we talked about it. And I remember it was at $4.36, and the next day I came on, it was at $4.42. Then I came on the next day, it was at $4.61, which was yesterday. And it's up 12% now. Because some were asking, like, hey, what's a company I can buy? And I'm like, I know that I've already invested, but I even said my average was like $4.32. So, and when it was at $4.51, I'm like, it's basically at the same spot as where I was buying. And then it's at like $4.39 now, because when it was at $4.61, I even said yesterday I was probably going to buy the rest of what I was going to buy. And because I started off with 500 shares, and then I got up to 1,100 shares, and I think I ended up with like 1,900 and something shares. But these are not short investments. These are, I've created my own ETF over time, but now I just simply had too much in Barrett Gold, and now that it's run so much from 19, it doesn't seem appropriate. Same thing with B2 Gold. The investment portfolio was at 240, 250, 260, 230, 290. I think I even bought some at 320 when it had a breakdown. I'm like, this is ridiculous that it's breaking down like this. But I've already put in so much. I think I have like 3,400 and something shares. So, I mean, that's a lot of shares. And it's gone up a nice amount now. And then, like, Barrett Gold, like I said, it had already gone up too much. But, you know, there's like 8,000. Anyhow. And then Pan America Silver, it's already gone up too much. You know, I remember when we were buying it at 19, 20, 22, after it had that steep drop at 22 and they had an acquisition. I'm like, listen, this is the same thing that happened to First Majestic earlier in the year, back in April or May. First Majestic had an acquisition. Their price went from like $8 to $4.40. I came here live and said, listen, this is when we start to invest in this company, and it's going to be a long time, and it's going to take a long time. But we're going to see ourselves back up at $9. And then when we're at $9, everyone's going to say, well, should I buy it? And I'm going to say, well, it's already gone up so much, but that's, you know, it's still got so much farther to go. And it was right here. Nope, it was down here. Right here. Oh, wow, that was last year when that happened? Holy crap, I was a little off of my dates. The other acquisition was Pan America in the summer, I forgot. This was this one. Wow, that was all the way back in August of last year. That was like 1 year ago. Yeah, it's been a while. But they had a merger and acquisition, and it dropped down to this, oh, it was 472. I said 442. Well, I was actually right there. Because the wick came down. Yeah, that's it. 442. That's when I first started building that formation for support. And that's when I'm like, we got to buy. It went back up here real quick and dropped back down. I'm like, listen, this is the time. It's back testing here a second time. And that's when we first made that bulk purchase. And then we bought more every time it dived. And the last time we bought it, it dove down to $4. I'll never forget. Where was this? Or $5, right here. $5.20 something cents. Or 30. Yeah, this was at $5.35. And Fortuna Silver Mines was at $5.25. And then it came down one more time. And this was in May at $5.60 and $5.50. I remember we were buying it here when I was doing this. And I just remember saying, before we know it, it's going to be at $9.21. And it's crazy when they start to get to those levels. Because then you're like, well, we knew it was going to go there. It just seems weird when it does. So in the same way that happened, it happened to Pan America Silver. Pan America Silver made an acquisition, and the price literally fell off a cliff. I mean, it fell off a cliff. And that was, I believe, right here. Yeah. The price went from $27, and it made a steep drop all the way down to like $20.67. That's the last time we bought Pan America Silver, from what I remember. I don't think we bought it. Oh, no, I think we did buy more at 22. I'm almost positive, but yeah, there was definitely more bought in June as well. But every time we had a steep drop, we were buying it, just waiting for this breakout. And then it could still be early, because look how wide this pattern is. But once we get over $37, remember saying, hey, before you know it, we'll be at $37, and it's better than 22. You know, you'd rather have it at 22 than 37. But I just think we have a long ways to go in time. You know, there's always going to be corrections. You've seen it here. Remember Hecla? After we bought it, it went up to $6.50, then it dropped right back down to like $5.30, and when it came down there, I'm like, oh my God. The single largest silver producer in the USA wants to keep dropping down to $5.50. Like, when it did that, I'm like, this is unbelievable. Because we were buying on this back test. And then all of a sudden it did it again, and I'm like, I'm just going to go balls deep into this guy. And this has been stuck in the same rotation. And at the same time, my brother asked me, old Vincenzo, which you can watch him on YouTube, what is it? Vincenzo's Gold Crypto Investing. Um, but he asked me before, why do you think that Hekla's been stuck in the same rotation? Remember, it was up here at $47 at one point. But then once you got to, what was this at? Right around here. It stayed between 13, 14, and it would come down to like a small margin in December. But then you find $7 up to 13, down to $1.75, up to 11. Then it got stuck here 2, 7, just bouncing around here. But it's like, why would it be stuck in this same general spot for all these years? I think it's pretty easy. Silver's been manipulated in a cup and handle for the last 45 years, so it hasn't given it the upside of the ability. But I think now some of these companies are going to knock your socks off, and you're getting confirmation with volume. Look at that. This is all-time high volume for Hekla mining, ever. If I was seeing that on the crypto charts, I'd be jumping off my chair and saying, oh my God, we're about to be rich. We're not seeing that in crypto, but when I look at the miners, I'm saying, oh my God, we're getting rich. And nobody's talking about it. People always tell me in the audience that people talk about it. I'm sorry, I don't hear anybody talk about it. In fact, when I put the content out, it's my content that performs the most poorly when I put out anything precious metals or mining. And I even took the speculator one off for coal mining off my list for now, because it's going to get in the way of these actual mining stocks that are up on the road right now. The other one very well might be a great asset, but it's not part of what I keep trying to preach here, so we'll take that off until future notice. But that's one, if you were watching yesterday, please go back and look, because I do think it's viable. Just might take time. Let's see. %20 drop today is small compared to. Let's see. But yeah, it's I think this is where a lot of money is going to be made, and it's an untapped sector. It just is. If I had a quarter for every time I had to hear Peter Schiff say, why didn't anybody talk about this? Nobody talking about this. I'd be a rich person, even richer. But I'm rich already. Like, I was never defined by being rich by how much money I had. Oh, I'm sorry. How many units of debt I had, because that's what we actually get paid with in the United States. They give me a unit of debt. They make me the proud owner of a note that says what I'm owed. So no different than my house note that the bank gives me that says, you own this house, but since you owe us money, we're going to hold on to your note for you. Well, that's how it is. The government owes us money, so we hold on to their note, which is our currency. But we never get our currency because we can't redeem the gold. So how are we supposed to get real money for this unit of debt? Well, I certainly don't want a US dollar. I can barely wipe my ass with that these days. So how can I redeem my unit of debt? Oh, I'm sorry. That probably goes over a lot of people's head, because in school they didn't teach us shit. That's the problem. I didn't get taught anything. They taught me the stupidest things that I never use now. But hey, what do I know? The futures on gold, and I just seen it again. The futures price on gold is like at 3,500 and some change, and that's what I was talking about a couple weeks ago. Like, there's nowhere for it to go but up. Like, I'm almost scared what's going to happen with the portfolio and mining stocks when this happens, because it's already getting at levels I never thought possible, and we're barely even gone anywhere yet. It's just I had so much time to stay the course, and like, I don't want a government bond. I did it one time, but I don't like the bonds because it barely stays up with inflation. I only did that on a time when risk on and off were having a hard 3-month stretch, so I decided to put a little bit of money into a bond. But I don't like the bond necessarily because I'm an active investor. And like, I understand risk on and risk off better than anybody. And like, in the environment we're in, like, there's one sector that it don't matter what the Dow's doing. It don't matter what the Nasdaq's doing. If it's going red, 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 or green, 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 it's going to do its own thing. And that's a risk on and off sector, and that's the mining stocks. But it's not all mining stocks. Like, hey, this is a coal miner. Well, they're not going to be doing as well right now because coal's getting shit on. So the coal miner is probably not the right place for immediate success. Long term, it's a great place to start investing. But you're walking in to a moment in time with the mining stocks where, yeah, there's always going to be pullbacks. Like we seen with gold. It went from 30, what was it? When it dropped like $300, $400. When we got to this candle in the monthly, it was like almost 35. Then it dropped all the way. So it had almost a $500 drop very quickly, but it eats it back up. You know, and my target was 3,808 on this rise up we're having right now. So, but it's just in the environment we're in. If the moment they say rate cuts, everybody thinks crypto's bullish, like risk assets are actually bullish. They're not technically bullish in a rate cut scenario. But if QE is accompanying it, well, yeah, then it becomes momentarily a good thing. But overall, it's not technically a good thing for a risk asset to continue to lower rates. What it's bullish for is gold, silver, and mining stocks that produce and mine the gold and silver out of the ground. Platinum, palladium, and all that stuff to an extent, copper, yada yada. But those are different avenues. They do things a little differently. I'm just talking about gold and silver with the mining producers. Like B2 Gold came out and basically said, we're going to knock your socks off next quarter. Because they're going to start to actually sell the gold that they've been getting out of the ground that they refused to do for like the last year and a half. And now instead of getting $2,000, $2,500, they're looking at an average price of $3,300 to put on the books. Do you know what that's going to do? The moment that happens, the price isn't going to be, like when I first said this, it's not going to be $3.61 now that we know this. Well, now it's at $4.12. It's not going to be $4.12. Like, I'm going to love when I start to say B2 Gold at 7, 8, 10, 12. Because I'm going to say, man, I remember when this was at $2.42. And everybody was just paying attention to crypto. And no matter what I said, only about 0.1% of the people actually blinked. And now we're sitting here while crypto is still doing what it always does. And the miners just had this historic run. Well, I buy physical silver too, but I don't sell physical gold and silver. See, this is the difference. I don't sell any gold and silver I ever buy or acquire. That's going on to the next generation of my family through a vault, through the hole in the ground, through a hole, I don't know, wherever the hell it all sits. But that's all getting passed on. I like mining stocks because that's a tradable asset that allows me to invest in the same way I would in gold and silver in a time of accumulation. But then when the time comes, let's say I 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, I don't know how many X's it's going to be by the time it's all said and done. But by the time it's said and done, I can start cashing out for tangible money and not have to touch my gold and silver. That's a safety net. If anything ever went down and I actually needed it, well, it's there. But you might need to sell your bullion if you go into a depression. Well, that would be the time that it would be the most appreciated. It would appreciate the most. But no, that's what I'm saying. I'm building a nest egg with the mining stocks too, so I won't have to do that. You're down 2K now, for fuck's sake. Let's go XRP. I don't know why you're down 2K. Unless you're buying when I advise strongly against it when XRP's at certain points. Like, I don't think anybody should be buying it here. XRP's the best value under $1. Anything over $1 is speculative in my opinion. So anybody buying it at $3.50, $3, $2.50, $2.80, $2.90, $2, you're gonna end up finding yourselves in some water at some point. Are the gold miners better than the silver miners? That's speculative, but with where we're at, I would say the silver miners will most likely outperform the gold miners, but that is terrible to just look at it and say, from here I'm going to buy First Majestic at $9, for example, and overlook B2 Gold at $4 just because one's a gold and one's a silver miner. B2 Gold actually got out of the ground the most silver it ever has. It actually produced more silver than gold for the first time on record, and it's kind of convenient with the way pricing is going that would be the case. So yeah, it's not apples to oranges, but in this environment, the silver miners will probably outperform the gold miners. And if you look at it, I have Barrick Gold, B2 Gold, as far as gold miners. And then I have Pan America Silver, First Majestic Silver, Fortuna Mining, which is Fortuna Silver Mines, Hecla Mining, Silver Corp Metals, which is more of an up and coming one, but their books are looking much, much better. A lot more capital on hand. And they've actually got into some acquisitions. So I think they're one that can be a player going forward, which I thought they could be before, but you know, it's just one of those things. I put a certain amount every single week, or I mean, every single month into mining stocks, and now it's getting to a point where you got to get creative because sometimes you don't have the same opportunity as the other times. So be blessed. I got to go. It's been an hour. Appreciate all of you. Join Tom's Army so you can become part of the Telegram. You're going to want to do that because in one of the next 2 or 3 lives, I'm going to have the live call-in feature active. So you have to be part of Tom's Army on the Telegram to be able to do it. It's like other shows where they make you write into their little thing and then you get on the air. This is the way you get in through the checkpoints because the time is valuable and the valuable is time. So I don't want some asshole to come in and waste my time. So if you want to be part of that, consider joining Tom's Army and then follow the Telegram in the link and we'll do that. So be blessed, everybody, and we'll talk more.